It's crazy to think we are already on Season 2 of the worst of the worst. Hell, I was just stoked to finally have a good direction for this, and I had a lot of fun on Season 1. For the most part. Almost all of it. This season we are making a few changes, but overall, the point of the series is going to stay the same. We have 8 games we are pitting against each other, all of which are different. There was part of me that was very tempted to put Alone in the Dark for the Wii, but I felt that'd be kind of cruel and unfair to the rest of the games, though I think it would have been funny. Last season we had some controversial picks, some not so much. We had Fester's Quest, Oni-Chanbara, Bikini Zombie Slayers, Jaws Unleashed, Silent Hill Homecoming, Umbrella Corps, Nightcry, Ju-On, The Grudge, and the series winner, or loser, Alone in the Dark 2008 for the PlayStation 2. We have our usual categories of game mechanics, presentation, story, and game feel. For game 1 of the season, we are talking Blood Drive, or as I felt while playing this game, the great value version of Twisted Metal. Car combat games were a much bigger deal during the PS1 days, but by the time they made it to the PS3, the fad was long over, and even the reboot of Twisted Metal didn't seem to do that well, or at least not well enough to continue with the franchise. I'm not even sure if we're getting another game after the first season of the TV show. During the hiatus of the king of road combat games, we got this game by Sid Key and Pickpock. Those names are not installing a whole lot of confidence. Matter of fact, if you look at the list of games these companies have been a part of, it won't install any further confidence.
Show no mercy.
The basis behind this game is super simple. If you've played a battle mode in Mario Kart, for example, you know the deal with this one, at least to a degree. You drive around while both dodging incoming attacks and dishing out some of your own. Each car has different stats, and a different special associated with them. Something fans of Twisted Metal should be more than familiar with. You also get a unique driver. Unique. Littered around the map is different weapon pickups, and you having to complete different objectives depending on the round, like races, killing the most zombies, and getting the most car kills, as well as getting an extra point for killing a rival character. You can do this as a tournament mode, which is the main way to play the game, and it even supports a multiplayer. Or you could do single events. I don't know why. It makes no sense. This game, again, very straightforward with everything, and that's both good and bad. There is nothing other than bare bones experience for you to grab on here.
Show no mercy.
This game looks like it belongs in a previous console generation. Not that the graphics are bad, but they aren't pretty. But what really makes me think this is the user interface. The menus, the HUD elements, and the overall design really reminds me of PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2, and I kind of count that as a positive. We're often trying to call back those memories in gaming, especially the indie category. But while a lot of those bring up feelings of nostalgia, this game really just is kind of there. One of the things that made a game like Twisted Metal 2 engaging is the different characters and how their vehicles fit them thematically. And some of them became very iconic. I'm sure you know who I'm referring to.
Light 'em up, boys.
This game, on the other hand, doesn't have any characters that stand out. Everything is bland, and the cars, for the most part, don't seem to be anything special. And when you're playing, they just seem a little random.
Show no mercy.
I wish I could talk to you about the story. I can't. That was something I enjoyed a lot about other car combat games, but there is a big snag with this one.
My name is Calypso. Exactly 1 year ago on Christmas Eve, my Twisted Metal contest destroyed the City of Angels. Down below, life has come to a halt as survivors struggle to stay alive.
Calypso! Calypso, what have you done? What have you done?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the City of Las Ruletas, your host for the Blood Drive Tournament. Here in Las Ruletas, we said you to that zombie apocalypse. That's right, Sid Heads, we've got the badass cars. We've got the howling undead. We've got your favorite drivers mowing down everything in that path.
You have to pretty much do all of the tournaments in order to get the ending for your character. And it took me 40 minutes just to get a win in the first one, and you're not allowed to jump ahead. You also can't save mid-tournament, and I'm told later on some of these tournaments go for a very long time. This is beyond unnecessary for a game like this. What could have been a fun, arcadey game with a simple ending turned into something that I didn't even want to see anymore, and was unwilling to go the distance to even see a single ending.
Show no mercy.
I just said that this should have been more of an arcade feel, and even though there are some elements of this, they still missed the mark on what made those older games just feel good. Of all the cars I played, there wasn't one of them that I could stop and say it handled well. There's some weirdness with some things. I'm not sure why, but I constantly felt like I was unable to turn enough to keep track of any of my opponents. For a game in which you need to be able to kill opponents, you need to either be able to turn well to make sure you can hit them, or weapons that are fun and easy to use. This game doesn't exactly hit the mark with this at all. The weapons aren't fun to use. And I do feel if they leaned in the same direction as the hood elements and went more with an arcade feel, this could have worked out so much better. Seriously, I'm not sure how a game can feel this poorly when they could have just cheated off someone else's homework. There's even an indie game called Diesel Guns that was very short-lived that handled this far better than Blood Drive. I'm not sure how they could have messed up the handling so bad. None of it feels like you're actually driving a car. A tank might be a little bit more appropriate. Even the sports cars didn't feel right as you're moving on. I'm not really sure how to explain it any better than that. Everything felt sluggish and off.
Humiliation.
Yeah, for Season 2, we're starting off kind of strong. Sure, it's not the worst game I played. It's sure as hell not Alone in the Dark 2008 for the PlayStation 2. But it's also not worth trying, in my opinion. It lacked in so many areas. It feels like even Blood Drive doesn't want to play Blood Drive, and the critics at the time seemed to agree with that by not having a single positive review on Metacritic. There are some fans who felt otherwise, and frankly, whoever gave this a 10 out of 10, you're crazy. None of the game modes stood out as anything special. The weapons, somehow, were super boring. And the only more boring thing was the characters. Seriously, if you're looking for a car combat game on the PS3, you really should have waited for Twisted Metal. Or better yet, go back and play Twisted Metal 2. Or even Twisted Metal Black. I love that game. It's hard as hell, but at least it's interesting. You could have done worse than play this game. Again, you could have played Alone in the Dark. I wonder if that's getting old for anyone. It's sure as hell not getting old for me. The next game we're playing is actually very, very well known in the retro gaming sphere, and is probably hated more than Fester's Quest. Is it worth the hate? We'll find out. One game that gets a ton of hate in this community is Simon's Quest. And that's not really a crazy development right there. In fact, I didn't even know this game got a lot of hate before I started watching YouTube, because as a kid, I happened to enjoy it quite a bit. And I think most of you know what I'm talking about. Back when he was the angry Nintendo nerd, we got quite an earful about this game, and he was pretty brutal on pointing out all the flaws that were visible to everyone other than me. We've actually been in the situation once before last season, and that was with Fester's Quest, which I happen to disagree with him on. We get to see if this game deserves what was referred to as diarrhea dog shit that's been thrown at it. If you're new to the worst, we have a few bits of criteria that we try to go on in order to determine if a game really is the worst. That is game mechanics, preservation, game feel, and story. What we're doing is we're pitting 8 of my games every season to see which one I have in my collection was actually the worst. Season 1's winner was the infamous Alone in the Dark for the PS2. I still hate that game. So far in Season 2, the only game we've actually looked at is Blood Drive for the PS3. So we're going to see if this game can topple the catastrophic car combat game. I don't think I'm excited for this. Now, before we get into the actual criteria here, I just want to point out that this is the follow-up to the cult classic game that, frankly, I don't think anyone has that many bad things to say other than it's unbelievably hard. Simon's Quest tried to take that formula, add some new things, and we're going to see if it really holds up at all.
Show no mercy.
Some things have actually stayed the same. The movement is the same, and the whip hasn't really changed, but a lot else has. It's no longer just killing everything you can while moving from stage to stage, but this is pretty much one of the first open world games, and it shows in a lot of ways. There's a lot of not knowing what's going on, where you're supposed to go, and even some of the translation basically makes it impossible to figure out what you have to do in some spots. Another new feature is the day and night cycle, something that is hated by a lot of gamers. When it's nighttime, enemies get tougher while in the overworld, but in the different castles it doesn't seem to affect anything. Just like the first game, you would think getting hearts would get you life. It still doesn't. I still think that's stupid. So instead of getting hearts to replenish your health or making them used for sub-weapons in this game, they are a currency in order to buy objects you need from NPCs. This is not explained very well at all. The first big example is that you need an object to even start the first castle, and it's not really explained what you need, how to activate it, or what is even going on. Just like the first game, there is knockback when you get hit, and with how many pitfalls there are, it can be super frustrating for many gamers, including me currently.
Show no mercy.
Though the game went with a more realistic color palette than the first game, I feel like this goes a bit too far and loses some of its charm. I'm not sure how it would have worked with the day and the night cycle, but I wish they had put a little bit more flair to the pixel art. I know this game gets a lot of hate, but I have the music stuck in my head for days now, and I frankly think it needs to get a little more love. Something about Castlevania music that always seems to hit the sweet spot for me, so I may have some very clear biases here. Sadly, this is where all my positives end, if you count the first one being a positive. Guess it wasn't really a negative. The changing from day to night definitely takes way too long. It's fine the first time, but when you're putting some time into the game, this is a massive issue. The translation of what the NPCs say is game breaking. Mostly because you need hints on what you need to do, and there is no way in hell you can understand from this nonsense. This is something AVGN and others have harped on over the years.
There are parts in the game that are definitely not self-explanatory and are too hard to figure out. Take this dead end, for example. Would you guess that you're supposed to pass through this wall? How? You have to kneel down by it for like 10 seconds. Now still, that's not enough to make it so cryptic and hidden that we can't figure it out. Oh, please give us more for our buck and make it harder so we can wander around the whole game and exhaust every possibility before we find out. Okay, guess what? You need to have a red crystal selected and be kneeling down and wait a little while before this magic tornado comes and takes you to the next part of the game.
Show no mercy.
I didn't know this as a kid, but the game actually had a story to it, and one that makes a lot more sense on what you're doing in the game. You play as Simon. Big shocker there. And it's 7 years after we beat Dracula in the first game. He was told that he had been cursed, and the only way for him to get rid of it was to resurrect Dracula and seal him away. Now, this wasn't a guarantee to stop him forever, but it's the only way for him to survive because he will end up dying soon. Depending on how long it takes you to beat the game, you get a different ending. No idea how the hell you're supposed to beat this game in under 8 days. I've only beaten the game once, and that was with the updated version called Castlevania II Simon's Redaction. It fixes a lot of issues and actually changes a lot of the dialogue to actually be helpful.
Show no mercy.
Yeah, I think this game feels fine. There's a level of weight when you're moving around, especially when jumping. I personally like this. I know that we have some games where you can change the direction of the jump midair, but you get used to it in here. It's fine. It's fine. This is a very early version of the action RPG genre, and it was really ahead of its time. There are some areas in which the game does fall short here, and it still comes down to those translations. You can get the items you need. If you just buy everything you can get upgraded weapons that helps out when the nighttime comes since creatures are stronger then. But even if you manage to figure all this out and the dreaded kneeling debacle, there's something that just feels massively off in this game, and it's not really what happens, it's what doesn't. There are only 3 bosses in this game: Dracula, Camilla, and Death. There's something that's a massive step back from the original game. Not only in the first game did we get to fight Dracula, a second version of him, and 5 other bosses including a Frankenstein monster, giant bat, and Medusa. 3 bosses just doesn't cut it for me.
Humiliation.
Yeah, this game has a lot of decent ideas. But in the end, there was some very bad execution. As I was playing through this time, I didn't get as far as I would have liked because there was just a lot missing for me. Even though the original is harder, I feel like I would rather struggle through that instead of slogging through this knowing that yet again I will only be getting the bad ending. Is this as bad as everyone makes it out to be? Personally, I don't think so. But after all these years, can't really say I'm excited to pick up and play this game again, at least not anytime soon. Now, how does it stack up against the reigning champion this season? Hard to call it that because there's only one other game in the series, but I feel like I really have to give the win to Blood Drive. Simon's Quest may have been a misstep, but in the end, at least it tried to do something new, original, and push gaming forward. At least this game doesn't make me want to drive off a cliff, like the winner of Season 1 did, Alone in the Dark. Don't worry, I'm going to keep making these jokes. Back at it with Season 2 of the Worst of the Worst. The series where people only read the title, make a comment, and not bother listening to a single thing I say. Except for when I make a massive mistake. Brutal, but justified. Now, if you have 2 seconds to actually watch the video, we are pitting 8 games that I have against each other to determine which one I have is actually the worst. That does not mean that the game you loved while you're still young enough to wet the bed is absolute dog shit. It's just that some people perceive it to be. It's okay. Games I actually have enjoyed have been on this list, and a few games I kind of fell in love with because of this series. I'm sure at some point one of the games that I absolutely adore is going to be considered the worst. It's bound to happen. Last season we had Alone in the Dark for the PS2 being crowned the champion against some very interesting contenders. So far this season we have Blood Drive for the PS3 as our reigning champion, but it's got some stiff competition coming up. Last episode, matter of fact, Blood Drive beat out Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, and some people seem to be rather ticked off that I even bothered to include that game. Some of y'all just need a hug. Now we're going to be breaking this down into 4 categories that help us determine how this game falls on the crap depth chart. I will even do my best not to muck it up this time, I swear. We have game mechanics, presentation, story, and game feel. I better have said it right this time around, and I better not have any more issues with the screen transitions. That video kind of kicked my ass. Oh wait, apparently I might actually be the worst of the worst. Silent Hill Downpour is often either forgotten about or instantly the cause of the end of Silent Hill as a franchise. There are some defenders out there. But let's be honest, there really is less of that than people hating it. Released in North America in 2012, to some mixed reviews, yet whenever I see discourse about this game online, it normally is basically just called absolute garbage. But I didn't think Homecoming was the worst thing I ever touched. That distinction is usually given to Alone in the Dark. Any of the versions. By the way, your game still blows.
Show no mercy.
This game is something else. And even in this first category, I feel like I have some issues. Though again, this is not the worst. There are some standard survival horror fare, having to solve puzzles, make your way around Silent Hill while fighting off the local monsters. Now, when I first played the first few Silent Hill games, I treated the monsters a lot like I did the zombies in Resident Evil and just ran around them. But sometimes, in this game, that is far more annoying than it's worth. Yet the combat is just as bad. Fighting in this game isn't exactly challenging, but an annoyance that I couldn't wait to be over, except that the enemy respawn rate was so high I happened to be fighting a lot. The lack of direction was an interesting choice for this game. I don't like my hand to be held the entire game when I'm playing, but sweet Jeebus, I got lost more often playing this game than I normally do, and that says a lot. And yes, I said sweet Jeebus. Jeebus. My moderator, Black Moon, often tells me I'm the best slow speed runner in any game category. And this game certainly plays into that.
Show no mercy.
Now, I said that the last Silent Hill to touch this series, that the visuals were all over the place, and this is no exception. Now, I do have to say that a lot of the time the character models look horrible. There's just something I'm not a fan of, and when looking at other games at the time, I feel like the team here just missed the mark by a bit. Just enough to make it so they look off. Now, let's compare this game to one that was released on the Wii around the same time, that being Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly. We didn't get that version in the States though. But if we look at it, the art style of that game makes it easier to look at. But around this time period, making anything close to realism ages very hard. The music isn't awful, but there is clearly something missing, and that is one simple fact. Yamaoka was not involved with the music, so it's just a different vibe to it. Now, I know people will make some assumptions about the skill of the composer for this, Daniel Licht, and that man had a resume that makes me giggle in a good way. Some films like Hellraiser Bloodline, the TV show Dexter, and even the Dishonored series. I think this was just a hard slot to fill, and sadly, I don't think his style of work was the best fit for Silent Hill.
Show no mercy.
This mildly connects with the game mechanics, and you know why here in just a minute. You play as Murphy Pendleton, a convict that is being transferred. His bus crashes, and he is stranded in Silent Hill, and I have some issues with this already. It's not a bad setup, and maybe it's just me here, but I always felt that Silent Hill manages to call the right people to it for one reason or another, but this just felt like a stretch even for me. You're stuck in town with a correctional officer that seems to hate your guts. You run into several people in town, most of them have their own demons to deal with. Here is where the mechanics and the story do not line up in the slightest. You get to make choices in this game, and they determine your ending. Now, the karma choices can actually be negated by killing too many monsters, but back to what I was complaining about, it doesn't matter what you choose in that moment. And here, let me explain. You can choose to save a character right in the beginning of your time in Silent Hill. No matter what you pick, the person falls. And this isn't the only time this happens, and it really feels like they took the power of choice away from the player, which damages this game in my personal level of caring.
Enjoying the view. You know, they say if you were to put the Empire State Building in here, it wouldn't even reach halfway to the top of this place.
Seems like a dangerous place to be sightseeing.
You know, none of those things they said about me are true. The papers and stuff, people around town, my lawyers, they said it was just circumstantial evidence and whatnot. That's what I kept telling them.
Yeah, I read all about it.
Those newspaper men are goddamn fucking liars.
Relax, man. We're just talking here.
What happened? That was an accident. I didn't mean to hurt nobody. I didn't murder nobody. Murder's a mortal sin. You go to hell for murder. Ain't that right, Murphy? Surely your mama taught you about what's right and what's wrong.
Those kids had parents that might disagree with you. The paper mentioned negligence.
It was an accident.
You were completely hammered. There were witnesses.
And how about you, Murphy? Someone know all your dirty little secrets?
I never hurt anybody that didn't deserve it. And I sure as hell never hurt any kids. I wouldn't be able to live with myself.
You call this living? Can you imagine what that's like, Murphy? Living all your life inside someone else's lie? Can you? Listen to us talk. As if anybody out there gives a damn. When we're the ones who decide if we can live with what we've done.
Wait. What do you mean? Just wait a second.
Be seeing you around, Murphy.
No.
By the end, you learn exactly why the woman hates your guts, what you did or didn't do, which doesn't make any sense in context of the game. I'm trying not to spoil it for you.
Show no mercy.
Why is there a yeet button? This game feels a bit clunky. Not that Silent Hill games have always been smooth, and even the new remake of 2 has its issues. There seem to be some weird choices with the button laid out, including the yeet button, and the combat just feels awkward. I feel like Homecoming was an interesting step in a direction. Right or wrong is up for the player, but this feels like a minor regression. Being lost is a me thing. I don't remember having that issue the first time around on this game, so I'm not sure if that's the game problem or what, but the game feels like it doesn't know what direction it wants to be in all aspects. For a franchise like this, I want to see a clear path forward when a sequel is released. For me, I think of Resident Evil 7 Biohazard.
Daddy's coming. We need to go. We need to go now!
What the fuck are you?
Shut up and listen if you want to stay alive. Ethan, you gotta get out of that house.
Oh no. They're coming. Who is? What the hell was that?
Stop shouting. You'll draw the monsters.
Tell me, what is going on around here?
It doesn't make any sense. Mother Miranda has always protected us.
I'd love to explain this in a way that doesn't make me sound like a lunatic, but I'm unable to look at this game and figure out where I'd even want the franchise to go. They took some stabs with other games, including Book of Shadows, but even Konami didn't seem to know what direction they wanted to be in until PT, and then yet again that went nowhere.
It's all here. Literally every memory I have is written in these pages. So now I'm curious. What happens if I rewrite it?
in the door. It's a separate reality. The only me is me. Are you sure the only you is you? Humiliation!
I've been writing the script the whole time, and I didn't know what I was going to do in this section. Sure, the game isn't all that great, and I don't have a ton to say that I liked about the game either, but it doesn't deserve as much hate as it seems to get. In the same breath, I don't know if I can say the game is good. I do think Simon's Quest deserved not to be labeled the worst of the worst for a lot of reasons. If some of y'all watched the last episode, you know why. The thing is, though, I didn't enjoy my time with Blood Drive, and I found most of the choices to be mind-boggling, yet I found Downpour just to be disappointing. In the end, the win goes to Silent Hill. Now, I didn't want to make that choice. Silent Hill has become very special to me over the years, and I do believe this game was a bit of a misstep. This would have been an easier choice if just one of these games was truly awful, but neither live up to what they should have been. Then again, not every game can be alone in the dark. We are back on Season 2 of The Worst of the Worst, and I would promise that this episode will have less snark in it. I would definitely be lying. This is the series where apparently I rate your favorite games and then decide to crush your dreams. In reality, I'm picking 8 of the games in my collection and pitting them against each other to see which one is the worst of the worst. I managed to screw this up once this season, but we're going to try this again. We are focusing on game mechanics, presentation, game feel, and story. The game in question today is no stranger to having videos made on it, especially negative ones. In fact, it was even on an episode of The Angry Video Game Nerd. I was totally going to make this game come out later in the season, but an opportunity to have Silent Hill against Resident Evil again, I just couldn't help it. Last time we had Umbrella Corps against Silent Hill Homecoming, and funny enough, it was fairly close since I actually like both games.
Unlike Alone in the Dark.
Released in the year 2000, this game was something that the original wanted to be but wasn't able to, which is a game set in the first-person perspective. This was made at a time when console FPS was awkward. I find it interesting that this is a spin-off of one of the most popular franchises in video game history, and it's definitely an awkward spin-off. Survivor tells its own story, even if it's just a quick side story, so it's somewhat standalone. Now I say quick because this game is short. Like, under 2 hours short.
Show no mercy.
This is an interesting one. The PS1 wasn't known for its amazing FPS games. Sure, there were some that were good, but if you wanted the best first-person shooter experience, that was in the realm of the PC. Hell, I don't remember a stellar experience up until, like, Halo and Time Splitters 2. I feel old. Originally, the first Resident Evil was supposed to have this point of view, like previously said, and we finally get this now. And it's something. The tank controls are still here. No strafing in this game, and the use of the R1 button is raising your gun. That's right, you hold that button in order to make sure that your reticle is able to be used. It's a very clunky way to play a game like this, but oddly enough, I got fairly comfortable with it fast. Unlike previous games, there really is no need of the action button, because just running over objects and into doors automatically picks it up, or you go through the room transitions.
Show no mercy.
Wow, this game is ugly. Like worse than my appearance, according to some of you. It's easy to see what they did in order to reuse assets as much as possible, and then you can really see when they had to come up with something original for the game. The zombies are the same ones used from Resident Evil 2. They just wholesale stuck them in this game, which isn't the worst, except these zombies were never meant to be on screen at this size for a long period of time. When they have to make up enemies, we get the weird looking ape things which are completely lacking in all detail. Final boss has the exact same vibe. The iconic save room music is nowhere to be found in this game because there is no saving. You're expected to play this game from beginning to end in one sitting. Can't finish it? Well, too damn bad. And no soothing music for you either. At the time of writing, I can't even remember any of the music, and I played this game yesterday. So the music is weird, some of the enemies sound weird, and the graphics are muddy, boring, and not stellar up close. Even the tyrant they use doesn't look even remotely original. It looks like a straight rip-off of the Resident Evil 2 Mr. X. No, that's not his actual name. And they even made this boring and uninspired.
Show no mercy.
Now, I feel like Resident Evil games are far more complex than most fans want to believe. But not this one, and not even close. From the very beginning of this game, the quality of the writing is apparent, and it's very low budget indie film feeling. Now, I have an absolute love for low budget indie films. Hell, Puppet Master is probably one of my favorite franchises, and sometimes they're a little rough to watch. So it's not like I don't enjoy some lower tier writing. But there is nothing redeeming here. You start the game not knowing who you are, only to be led to believe that you're Vincent, this awful Umbrella employee who butchered a lot of test subjects.
A picture. No, this is me. I am Vincent. It was all my fault. Who are you?
Wait. Please don't kill me.
This is a spoiler for a game you're never probably going to play, but you're not Vincent. In fact, you were asked to go in and be a spy by Leon Kennedy, I guess? It's a weird connecting point, and I guess this was the first connecting point between Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4 for Leon, but this is forced at best.
Show no mercy.
I know there is a lot of people who are going to think I'm an absolute moron. But if we're being honest, past the first few minutes of the game, it really doesn't feel that bad. It's awkward. Let's not be stupid. But I can't say it's the worst thing I've played. As always, that's Alone in the Dark. If you defend that game, I got nothing for you, and I'm not sure why you still watch this series considering how often I dog on it. The worst part of this game as far as how it feels is when you get hit and the game forces you to look at the creature that just got you. The wide berth needed when trying to avoid enemies is far wider than you'd think, so when you get hit after just trying to avoid something, well, best way to say it is you're screwed. It does take time to get used to having to hold the R1 button in order to aim and fire, but as long as you think of this game as a Resident Evil game and not a standard first-person shooter, you should be okay. I'm not saying this is a good control scheme by any stretch of the imagination, but it can be tolerated. Run speed feels good. Reloading isn't the worst. Navigating the menus is awful, and I miss the old school style, but it's actually not a deal breaker.
Humiliation.
Yep, I knew the moment I replayed this game that I was going to piss somebody off, but this game really isn't that bad. Yeah, it has a lot of issues, like the god-awful voiceover, the lack of any real solid storyline that actually matters in the entire context of the Resident Evil universe. That would be nice. None of these characters really get talked about again, and for good reason, because none of them matter, and none of the events of this game matter. For a cash grab, this game is definitely better than Silent Hill Downpour, which really is a shame because I wanted to love that game. And it has some issues, but ultimately, I just didn't have a whole lot of fun playing it. Survivor, on the other hand, is squirrely and rough, but kind of like a grindhouse style of film. It's just different. Yeah, zero chance for Survivor to take the top spot this season. Before I started playing, I was sure in thinking that this would end up being the season winner, and not even by a little bit. But now, here we are. And so far, nothing this season comes even close to how absolute garbage Alone in the Dark is. I really do hate that game.
The fan base isn't a whole lot better either. You guys are a little weird.
Welcome back to Season 2 of the Worst, in which I have the impossible task of how to even begin talking about this game. It's special. Something special. We'll be judging this game against 7 others over the course of this season. Categories like game mechanics, presentation, story, and game feel will determine if the game has been judged too harshly by people, or if it's indeed the new king of crap. Gonna be kind of hard to beat Season 1's winner, Alone in the Dark. That game is trash. This is a game that I have streamed twice on Twitch, and I was very surprised by the level of popularity the game had over there. I expected people to ask what the hell I was playing. Now, I did get some of that, but people seemed to be enjoying the nonsense I was showing. Now, were they really enjoying the game, or were they just enjoying me getting mad? We'll find out.
Show no mercy.
This game is far more complicated than it has to be, and I have no idea why they thought it would be a great idea for any of this. The Wii is not a console that comes to mind for horror gaming to begin with, but the swinging for the attack actually isn't a horrible idea. You have to hold down the B button, I believe. I'm actively trying to forget this game. And swinging the Wii remote in order to attack. There's a lighter attack and a harder attack, though I find little reason to really try to hit with a harder one. The quick attack can easily stun lock an enemy. There's a first person thrust, and that looks horrible. And a ranged attack. By that, I mean you throw rocks. One mechanic I really do like is the map and how it gets filled out. It's slowly getting in details filled in as you move around, kind of like the Diablo games would. We see enough maps like Resident Evil and Silent Hill, so I thought this was a much better fit than those, and it works well with the narrative of being on an island you aren't familiar with. Dodging. Well, it reminds me of the Fat Man rules from Dark Souls. You know, the one where you're wearing too heavy of armor and it's really clunky looking. Honestly, that kind of sums up the gameplay in general. It's just like the Fat Man rolling in Dark Souls. It's just awkward.
Show no mercy.
Listen, this is a throwaway Wii title. The graphics look fine, I guess, maybe mid-GameCube era. Nothing in this game is particularly amazing in any way, and I'm really not trying to be mean yet. The sound work is awful, and not in the way you might expect. There is almost no music until an enemy spots you, and then it starts off way too far out. You have a ton of time to look around and try to figure out where enemies are coming from, which sometimes they are so far away you can't even see them. Why was it done like this? Wouldn't it make way more sense for the further an enemy is away, the quieter the music is? This would just be a great way to gauge the danger level. No idea why they did it this way.
Show no mercy.
Okay, so the story depends on where you're looking, and I know that sounds a really weird way to state this. Alright, so for the first example, I'm going to let Livestream Adam tell you what the story of this game is. And then we'll compare it to what I actually found out. So listen. Not only is this like a super cheesy looking game, look at the freaking the cover. I mean, come on. It's a Wii title. You wake up alone in a deep and fog-covered forest. Your friends are nowhere to be found. It was supposed to be a cozy night camping in the woods. Well, that's a fucking lie. You'll see why in a moment. That's a fucking lie. Until strange creatures rose from the darkness. You must find your friends, survive the horrific forest, and get off the island in one piece. That's the whole recap. And of course, we have these lovely photos right here. Are you ready for how they caption these photos? This is how they sell the game. Bugs, obstacles, time travel, survive. That was not even close. This isn't some random place you find yourself. You're there for a purpose. You're there to be with a friend who studies bugs, and they want to go to Bug Island, a place where it's well known to have larger than usual species. You are there with the woman your character has a massive crush on, and a slimy best friend character who tries to steal your girl and has a weird obsession with his shotgun. Seriously, I had to look up the rest of the story because I called it quits and I have no interest in ever playing this game, and here's why. A major point of this game is time travel. So everything you go through, you just go back and fix the problems anyways. I'm glad I didn't finish your stupid ass game, because I would have just been mad the rest of the time. Apparently in the past, a common thing was humanoid, naked lizard ladies. Not making this up.
Show no mercy.
This game looks like it should feel fine, and it actually does. I feel like this whole game is a shit show, but a third-person adventure horror game on the Wii, it's not that bad. The gestures aren't obnoxiously precise, though I still hate flailing even a little bit to attack. And despite previous comments on me playing Wii games, yeah, it feels like flailing, you fucking moron. I'm really not sure what else to say here. The game feel isn't offensive really, but I have a hard time saying it's good. The bouncing from first person for throwing and jabs to the normal third person is jarring. It still manages to be better than Alone in the Dark. Shocker.
Humiliation.
Yeah. This video should be kind of obvious where we're going at this point. This game is definitely... It's really hard to pinpoint this down, but I had a lot less fun playing this than Silent Hill Downpour. Like, it's not really all that close. Downpour has a lot of issues, and I feel like the community is very fast to point them out, but I really have nothing positive to say about Bug Island other than it's not the worst feeling game ever. It's not exactly a ringing endorsement. Either way, we are starting to wind down on Season 2 Worst of the Worst. We only have a couple more games left, and I'm excited to get to them. It seems like it's taking me a little longer than I would like. Who knows? The next one could possibly dethrone Bug Island. I feel like it's not as cut and dry this season. Either way, I'm Adam the Horror Historian. Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Worst of the Worst. We will catch you next time. We're going to be playing a game with an obnoxious phone mechanic. Season 2 is in its later half, and things are kind of starting to ramp up a little bit. We went from some games that really weren't as bad as I expected to having to deal with naked lizard ladies like I did in the last video. God, Escape from Bug Island. It was a thing. Now we really only have 3 games to go, and it's time to see if a game about cell phones is worse than one about giant bugs, and monkeys, and lizard ladies. As always, we are pitting 8 games I own against each other to see which one can climb the mountain of crap, reign supreme as the worst one I own. Well, at least for this season. The categories are game mechanics, presentation, story, and game feel. I really have managed to screw that up once this season, and I'm terrified of doing it again. This series has really created a complex in more than one way. The game we're talking about today really doesn't help much. In case for some odd reason you were watching this video and you didn't see the thumbnail or see the title, we're talking about Calling for the Nintendo Wii. Rest in peace, Hudson.
Show no mercy.
We have seen this style of game before. In fact, we have managed to see this last season with Ju-On, and that's exactly why I picked it for this season. It's a first-person game in which you aim with the Wii remote, and that's where you end up looking, which makes a lot of sense. Thankfully, this time around, you can use the Wii nunchuck to move around instead of holding a button down to move forward. Really, this is a huge step forward. The one major mechanic that sets this game apart from a lot of others, and while the mileage of this mechanic is really going to depend from person to person, and for me, it didn't. The use of cell phones is a major part, and the default setting for this game is for you to hold the Wii remote to your ear like you would a cell phone to hear certain parts. This is not something I am interested in doing all the time and would really make for a weird looking live stream where I ended up getting the footage for a bunch of these videos. Thankfully, this can be changed so all audio comes out through the TV so you're not stuck doing this. Now, one of the gimmicks for this is you're supposed to have the phone up to the ear. We're not doing that. Subtitles on. Cell phone. No, TV speakers. I appreciate the gimmick, but no. The cell phone mechanic has some unintended consequences, such as, for some reason, looking around with the Wii remote is very, very sensitive. So if you have to bring that up to your ear and then try to go back down, you're really going to have a hard time controlling your character. In some ways, the game is kind of like Fatal Frame, getting pictures sent to your phone that will show you the next path to go. Sadly, this is where that comparison stops. Instead of being able to defend yourself against the hauntings, you have to flail your arms. I have no idea how many times I have to say this. Yes, that is the action that you do. Or it'll look like you're doing something that will totally get you banned on Twitch and YouTube if you're looking at it from the wrong angle. I hated having to do this. At a certain point of the game, you have to call a number on your cell phone, and this is how you teleport to new locations, all while 3 ghost girls are trying to grab you. So you end up getting caught a lot if you aren't quick enough. I sure as heck was not quick enough. And then you have to flail like an idiot. For fuck's sake, would you turn? God damn it! What a shitty fucking game. You don't have time to fucking do anything. Fucking hell. Oh, come on!
Show no mercy.
This may sound strange, but the characters in the background are done in vastly different styles, and I actually think the style of the characters is far superior most of the time. The environment is somewhat realistic looking to an extent. I mean, this is basically made for a console that's not a whole lot stronger than a Nintendo GameCube, so take that with a grain of salt. But the characters are done in a very stylized manner, and I think it holds up rather well. They are expressive and stand out rather well. The voice acting actually isn't horrible. It's right on par for what you'd expect for this type of game. It's cheesy and rough around the edges, but tolerable until you get to the ghosts, and they were actually far worse. They don't come off as scary at all. The design for the ghosts doesn't help in the slightest. There isn't as much music in the game as I would have preferred. I wish there was something there. It felt like a lot of Bug Island in that regard, where a lot of it just felt quiet and empty.
Show no mercy.
This is 100% a product of its time and something I don't think any younger player will really understand. Random people meet up in a chat room that's supposed to allow you to talk to the dead, and instead they get sucked into another world, one being between the land of the living and the land of the dead. They call it the mnemonic abyss, and somehow the only way to teleport your way around this world, for the most part mimics locations in our own, is through the use of cell phones. Now, I didn't finish the game, but from what I've read, this plays out a lot like you would expect. One lady is able to meet the person they were looking for, 2 of the party bites the dust, and the last one has a rather sad ending, though they do live through it. I don't want to have to do spoilers, but I don't think many are really going to be playing this game either. There is nothing that you don't see a mile away, and it plays out exactly like you would expect it to. After the first stream, I was interested in where this game was going to be going, but sadly the story is just not there enough for me to want to come back anymore. If a story is good enough, I can overlook some of those annoying game mechanics, but the story was just weak.
Show no mercy.
Yep, this is the place where the game completely falls apart. I really shouldn't be experiencing pain while playing a game. Now, there is a major asterisk here because my body isn't exactly in the best shape, but I was sore as heck after just one of these annoying sequences. Now you see why I don't think this game is very good. I'm sweating right now. My elbow hurts from playing this game. The button layout is fine. It's the best that can be done for this controller, and thank God they made the smart choice of having the nunchuck being used. We have seen exactly where this has gone wrong in the past video I was talking about, Ju-On, The Grudge, a haunted house simulator. Awful title. It's the shaking of the controller that I hate. It would be one thing if you didn't have to do it for so dang long. Like half the time would have been reasonable. I have this thing. I refer to it as Muppet arms, and that's what I feel like I look like when I play awful games like this. It's like when Kermit the Frog is frantic and flailing his arms around.
Yay!
Yep, get used to that term flailing because I'm going to continue to use it despite how some people in the past may have disliked it. Screw you, Alone in the Dark.
Humiliation.
I bet some of you know where I'm going with this one, but I really did hate this game. Like, I really hated it by the end of the second stream. I'm never going to finish it. I will happily go back and play Castlevania 2 and Fester's Quest before I ever touch this game again. Yet, it is far worse than Bug Island. That game wasn't great, but damn, this one is horrible. Rest in peace, Hudson Soft, but this game sure as heck didn't help you any. Either way, I'm Adam. Thank you for watching this episode of The Worst of the Worst, and next time we're actually going to be visiting a Todd McFarlane game? Two games left on this season of The Worst of the Worst, and we have some turbulent waters ahead. This season, I think we've gone through a pretty decent list of games. Blood Drive, Castlevania 2, Silent Hill Downpour, Resident Evil Survivor, Escape from Bug Island, and last episode we have the current reigning game, Calling. Not The Calling, which would have made a much better title, just Calling. We take 8 games that I own. Yes, I'm aware there's a lot of really bad horror games that I need to do for this series, but I want to own a copy first. Doing it this way really helps with my backlog of games. And we see which one can topple the rest of the refuse and be named this season's King of Crap. The categories used for this are game mechanics, presentation, story, and game feel. This time around, we take Todd McFarlane's Evil Prophecy for the PlayStation 2, and damn, this game got kind of roasted by game reviewers. I really don't put a ton of stock into reviews because I have such odd taste in games, but for this one, I have to point out a few.
Show no mercy.
This game is something we haven't played yet in this series, and that is the beat 'em up, a game style that doesn't really lend itself to the horror genre, or even horror adjacent, to be honest. The game mechanics are about as basic as they come, even more so than a game like Fester's Quest. You have attacks, some special attacks, and a button to interact with things in the environment. You can swap between 4 different characters on the fly, each with their own elemental attack. You often have small quests to be completed, slowly building up to a boss fight. Something which I had less interest in doing the longer the game went on. The issue is, like any other game like this, you fight waves and waves of enemy, and all of them seem to have just slightly too much health, making the fight a slog. Sometimes it's the little things that can make games like this amazing, even things like art style or music, but I'm afraid that what little I managed to play of this game brought none of this. So instead, it's mindlessly pressing button combinations to level up that combo, which you have to find statues to make each of them stronger. There's nothing about this game mechanically interesting. At least not that I found.
Show no mercy.
If you thought I was being harsh with mechanics section of this, well, the game really falls apart here. There is a lot to this game for this department, but I'm afraid none of it really goes together. There's no voice acting in the cutscenes, though at the time I'm not sure if that was really a good or a bad call. Now when you fight, there are some sounds that come from the characters, but I really can't call that voice acting. You play as 4 different characters, which is nice, but none of them seem very inspired, which is kind of weird considering this is a Todd McFarlane game. Like the dude who makes Spawn. You would think that they would manage to make sure they had some interesting characters. The monsters are stock for this kind of thing, but at least they have some interesting elements to them, which is something that can't be said for the backgrounds. I thought the 360 PS3 era was the brown era of gaming, but this looks bland all the way around.
Show no mercy.
Yeah, there's a text scroll in the beginning of the game. And thankfully, it's easy to break down. A bunch of crazy things are going on all over the world and no one knows how to stop it. Well, one person knows what's going on, and that is Dr. Hans, who has a book that talks of an evil prophecy. All the other playable characters are victims of the events going on, but they are somehow known for being amazing in some way. Logan Blackheart is a pirate, so Twitch would absolutely love this guy. Delphine, who's a marksman, soon to know who's a warrior shaman, and Hans himself. There's nothing that stands out about these characters visually or narratively. I mean, the game is a beat 'em up, so I can't say I'm super shocked by, the narrative not being all that strong, but I would have hoped for better. A quick comparison. Now, horrible disasters all over the world with crazy monsters, but bland, boring world somehow, and characters, versus bright and vibrant world and fun characters where the villain stole the Statue of Liberty. Just saying, one sounds more interesting. Which one would you pick?
Show no mercy.
This game feels fine, I guess. I mean, it's just mashing buttons for the most part. Sure, there are combos, but it feels like they do such a small amount of damage that it's kind of a waste of time. The map system is rough at best. You're supposed to find some objects in the first area, and after a while playing the game, the idea of having to search in 3D space seemed less than amazing, so I ended up saying to hell with it. You're supposed to get stronger as the game goes on, but when you're playing it feels like you're making no progress, and seeing the statues to level up pop up right away, and you can't do anything with them, I started getting this feeling of why even bother. This is the modern equivalent of forcing a player to feed a machine quarters to keep playing. A way to force you to either spend more money, but this is the PlayStation 2, so it's done more to force you to spend more time in this game.
Humiliation.
This game could have been right up my alley because I actually do enjoy beat 'em ups. But I like older beat 'em ups. And I feel like this is the generation of gaming where they really were not hitting their stride anymore. This game is fine if you want a mindless game, and that's perfectly fine. But for me, I just felt bored. Not so fine. Now, if we contrast that with the last game in the series, Calling, well, then this game is actually amazing. Calling started out fine, I'm using that word a lot all of a sudden, like this one did, but Evil Prophecy didn't make me angry when I played it. I can overlook a lot of issues as long as, in the end, they're still fun to play, and seriously, this game, while not being fun, wasn't infuriating. I guess that leaves Calling still reigning supreme for this season. Either way, I hope you liked the video. I'm Adam the Horror Historian. Did you play this one? I don't think many people even know what this is. Thank you for watching The Worst of the Worst. Next episode is the finale for Season 2. We are pitting Calling against a book tie-in? I guess? Alrighty, last game of the season. Welcome to the 8th game of the worst, Season 2, and this time we get to do another movie tie-in game. We did the first one on Season 1 for Ju-On the Grudge, and this felt rather fitting. Now, believe it or not, there actually is a crossover movie where it's basically the Grunge versus the Ring. It looks horrible. I have to watch it. Now, the first thing people see when they play this game is that it has nothing to do with the movie that most people watched. In the US, I feel like everyone watched The Ring. Well, at least everyone I hung out with. The horror guy hanging out with horror movie goers? Go figure. This game is not a part of that. It's closer to the book franchise, and it's wild. Like, there are some things I had to stop playing the game and look up because I had no idea. Now, this game is going to be judged just like all the rest on game mechanics, presentation, story, and game feel. I've been determined not to screw that up again this season, but I've come close to a couple times.
Show no mercy.
Alright, if you played any survival horror game from this generation or prior, you know what to expect when it comes to controls. It's tank controls. Either you love them or you hate them. If you don't know what that means, because I don't think I've ever actually defined it on my channel or in this series, if you press the up on your controller, it automatically goes forward in whatever direction you're facing. Kinda like a tank. I know how some people feel about these control schemes, and personally, I don't mind it. I do wish the turn radius was a little tighter, but that's okay. We have two major gameplay segments. The first portion of the game is spent in the real world, and the other is spent in the game world. In that way, it's a lot like Silent Hill because the game world mirrors the real world, although it's darker, dingier, and kind of scarier, I guess. Unlike Silent Hill, most of the game you can't and won't engage in combat. As a matter of fact, it's not till later in the game you actually get to be in the real world and have combat sequences. There's long stretches of the game where it's narrative only, and for a vast majority of the game, the only time there is combat is in said game world. This really feels mechanically like it's two different games they mushed together.
Show no mercy.
This game is all over the place, and I both love and hate it for that. The opening of the game has voice acting, and oh my god, it's so horrible. Like, laughably bad. So bad it's kinda good? Sadly, the rest of the game does not have this voice acting, and I'm not sure if it's better or worse.
You're gonna have to get out of here. Or do you live here?
What's happened, officer?
What's happened, officer? No,
Watch out.
I'm asking you a
Watch your
question.
backs.
Do you live here? Hello? Miss?
Watch out.
Robert?
Hello? Hey. Hey, stop, lady.
No! No, I can't believe it's Robert. No.
You okay, lady?
Meg! What's going on over there? Like, hey man, what's happening here?
Hold on a moment, sir.
I know the two of them. They're friends. What happened? I don't believe this.
I see.
Oh, Meg.
Could you explain your relationship to either her or the victim?
Yeah, I know the two of them. They're both my friends. I'm Jack, and this is Robert's girlfriend, Meg.
There is some other audio of note, and we need to talk about that in just a little bit. The music is repetitive, and I mean very repetitive. One may ask, how bad could it really be? I hope you're prepared to listen to these same audio tracks over and over and over and over. If you open a door to a new room and it's still in the same zone for that audio, it will just start over. which has its moments of being rather amusing. Dun 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 dun! Ready? I love these sound effects. My favorite ones right here. You ready? The visuals are all over the place. The character models don't look amazing. In fact, I don't think the main character looks good at all, but she's miles better than the background. The issue that presents itself in the game is that the other world is rather dark, and there's whole areas that are way too dark, and I have no idea why someone thought this was a good idea. Or to quote the last video, it's fine. How they thought it was fine. Lastly, they're the enemies of the game. They are awful, and the less said about them, the better.
Show no mercy.
Alright, this is the part that is absolutely wild. This game is not based off the movie that we've watched over here in the States, but off the book series like I said before, which I've decided that I have to go through at some point because I definitely feel like I'm missing a lot of context. Here's the Reader's Digest version, and yes, there's so much missing. I'm trying to do this fast. Sadako is a powerful psychic who is sexually assaulted, contracted smallpox, murdered, and thrown down a well. Now, the murderer thought that they had strangled her to death, but it's actually starvation at the bottom of the well that did her in. I feel like a lot of people know this from the film, I think. Spiral shows that there was a virus that was being spread by the curse that ended up creating a tumor in the victim. Spiral is the second book. We end up with Ring 2. I think Spiral was a Saw film. Spiral wasn't a Saw film? I think it was a Saw film. There's a lot more to the curse than we understand here in America, following the pop culture aspect of the horror movie. The video wasn't the first cursed item, but it was an audio recording of her being intimate with someone. For the game we are playing for this video, the virus has managed to expand further and is now infecting a game, and that is what's killing people. We follow Meg as she tries to deal with her own issues with the virus and the CDC she works, which is really weird because her office she took over because her boyfriend who's in the CDC died. It's a mess. There's a lot going on with the story, but you can imagine it makes very little sense, and anything I have to say is not going to help you any.
Show no mercy.
Unlike the previous video, I can't say it's fine. It doesn't feel fine. It's disjointed and sometimes very off-putting. It's all the small things that mess this up because as a whole, the idea is actually sound. The controls are similar, but they aren't as dialed in as they should be. I feel like I'm constantly having issues turning and getting caught on objects. If you compare this to a game like Silent Hill, the controls only stand out more as a problem because the first Silent Hill came out earlier and handles far better. In a nutshell, that's how this game is though. It's like this close to being decent, but it manages to just fall a little short. The story is neat in a way. I wish more people knew it didn't have much to do with the film, but it's a crazy ride from the book. The parts where you really experience the story of the game is dull and adds contextual things that are really out there. Like I had no idea, and even had to stop the stream learning that Sadako had female testicular syndrome, which was a whole learning experience with the community. The game world is dark, hard to see for long stretches of the game, with monsters that are lame as hell. Neither part of the game is stellar, and it feels like they could have spent two different games somehow.
Humiliation.
So at the very end of Season 2, Oh, the worst of the worst. We finally get to see which game will be crowned the king of crap while the rest just gets tossed aside. I don't know if that's a bad thing. It's probably good for those games. We had a wild ride of beat-em-ups, car combat, retro side-scrollers, and even major franchise spin-offs. Joining Alone in the Dark as the season winner of the worst, we have... Should be clear, it's Calling. Yep, I'm sure some may be surprised, I guess, that I'm not going with The Ring. It boiled down to game feel, something that is very subjective, but I found that I ended up becoming more bored of the shenanigans of Ring than being frustrated, which is what actually made me stop playing Calling to begin with. Both had major presentation issues. Mechanically, they weren't as close, but the Calling story worked for me just a little bit better. Not that it made a ton of sense, but this game made no sense at all. So that is the end of Season 2 of The Worst of the Worst. If you've actually been hanging out with me on stream, you would know that we've already gotten very deep into recording for Season 3. Pretty excited for what we're going to do. We also have the Nightmare Arcade, which I got to work with Yahaha Games on reviewing a demo for Midnight Special, which was actually super good. You should check it out. My video and the demo, of course. Hope to see you in some of the other videos. Either way, I'm Adam the Horror Historian. Thank you for watching The Worst of the Worst, and we'll see you next time for something. I haven't picked which one's opening Season 3 yet, sorry.